Next news. Breaking news from the White House.
Democrat attorneys general just delivered a stunning signal by refusing every invitation from Vice President JD Vance to his White House anti-fraud roundtable. Republicans showed up ready to fight waste while Democrats stayed home. This boycott tells the country exactly where they stand. They are choosing to protect the fraud that drains over $500 billion from American taxpayers every single year. The Trump administration is declaring open war on government corruption. So what does it mean when one party refuses to even show up? Now, this matters because ordinary families pay the price for every dollar that's stolen. When federal workers inside agencies help scam small businesses and programs or demand bribes from disabled veterans, the system itself becomes the enemy. Americans lose $1.4 billion every day to this fraud. That money should fix roads, support our troops, but instead it funds insiders and schemes. The administration is exposing how the federal government turned into an extraction machine that loots taxpayers. If Republicans succeed in clawing it back, the results will hit every household through lower deficits as well as restored trust. Democrats boycotting this fight leaves them exposed as defenders of the status quo. So America's critical mineral supply chain faces its own national security crisis. It's tied directly to the same waste and fraud patterns. This breaking news on America's critical mineral supply chain. The SAGA metal story just got stronger. Less than 48 hours ago, SAGA released new information suggesting its radar project may be sitting on one of the largest titanium vanadium systems on the planet. Now, Brian, if you could just get the correct add up, that would be swell. So SAGA trades as SAGMF in the U.S. and SAGA in Canada. So to understand the scale, compare radar to China's Panxinhua deposit. That's a state-linked system valued in the multi-billion-dollar range and responsible for over 40% of global vanadium supply. Check out the in-depth interview that I did with the CEO just last weekend and check the exclusive briefing link below, but it's only for Next News viewers. These domestic finds can reduce reliance on adversarial nations that exploit global supply chains the same way fraud networks exploit federal programs. Now, back to the escalating battle against government fraud. Stephen Miller dropping the most explosive line of the day, claiming the fraud totals are so massive that stopping it alone could balance the entire federal budget. That reframes every tax dollar and every deficit as a direct result of theft rather than policy. The White House is building a powerful case that America was looted, not merely mismanaged. Let's jump into some of the posts here. Trump Daily Post here writing, every Democrat attorney general just boycotted Vice President JD Vance in his major anti-fraud roundtable at the White House. JD personally invited each AG and all Democrats said no. The GOP showed up. Democrats are letting us know that they are the party of fraud.
Vice President Vance will hold a roundtable with state attorneys general on anti-fraud initiatives. This comes as the Trump administration cracks down on a wide range of fraud. We will bring that event to you live when it happens, but for now, America Reports.
A live look at the White House now ahead of a rare and critical cabinet meeting happening at Camp David tomorrow. It comes as tensions rise after the U.S. carried out defensive strikes in southern Iran. Welcome to America Reports as we kick off a brand new week. I'm Sandra Smith in New York. Bill, good to have you here today.
Hey, Sandra, as always, great to be with you. Happy Tuesday.
So Democrats boycotting the entire anti-fraud roundtable. Senator Joni Ernst laying out the scale of the theft happening inside the system. Jaw-dropping betrayal. We lost $1.4 billion daily to fraud. That's over $500 billion a year. And let's see, we got the clip. Let's listen.
We have discovered, as I've worked through a number of these fraud cases, is that we lose approximately $1.4 billion every single day to fraud. That's taxpayer money. It's real money, Maria. And so through these small business programs, we're now exposing people working within the system, actually working for our federal government agencies that are perpetuating the fraud. We've got, examples of a fraudfluencer who was using social media to recruit participants in a small business scheme, and she gained the system by about $3.5 million. We have another example of a VA representative who was really asking disabled veterans for bribes in order to get their disability paperwork done. So we have all kinds of bad actors out there. We're going to expose them today. I'm thankful for Luke Rosiak's great work and so many others that have really brought America's attention to the fraud that's being committed against the federal government and our taxpayers.
The staggering sum, unbelievable. Federal workers running the scams themselves. Stephen Miller explains how massive the numbers really are. Jack Posobiec says it's Miller time.
Abiding by our laws. And the amount that has been fleeced from us is in the hundreds of billions of dollars. I believe, based on what I've seen and what I've heard, is that we could balance the federal budget if the only dollars that went out of the Treasury went to individuals who were properly, lawfully, correctly eligible to receive them. And that ultimately is going to be what we have to do as a country. In the meantime, because of the Vice President's leadership, you are seeing the most muscular, robust, aggressive, dedicated, determined, and speedy effort to shut down criminal fraud that has not only ever occurred in the history of this country, but in any developed nation. So thank you.
No, thank you, Stephen Miller. It's so massive. Eliminating alone could balance the entire federal budget. Listen to this.
Not abiding by our laws. And the amount that has been fleeced from us is in the hundreds of billions of dollars. I believe, based on what I've seen and what I've heard, is that we could balance the federal budget if the only dollars that went out of the Treasury went to individuals who were properly, lawfully, correctly eligible to receive them. And that ultimately is going to be what we have to do as a country. In the meantime...
So Stephen Miller laying out the scale is so massive, it could balance the entire budget. JD Vance reveals the anti-fraud task force has already clawed back billions from scammers and fraudsters. In just 2 months, we exposed billions of dollars in benefits that have been stolen from the American people. Let's go now to the Vice President at the round table less than 24 hours ago.
Let me just recap for the benefit of our friends of the media. In just 2 months, we exposed billions of dollars in benefits that have been stolen from the American people. We referred over $22 billion in fraudulent small business loans back to the Treasury for collection. We deferred more than $1.3 billion in fraudulent Medicaid reimbursements that were coming from various states, particularly California. We put a 6-month hold on enrollments for new hospice and home health care providers because so many of the newer hospice providers were not actually providing hospice services, but were just focus on fraud. So we're going to cut that out for a little bit and try to get to a place where we can actually certify that the people providing hospice services are actually providing those very necessary and important services. We've recovered taxpayer funds from the $135 billion stolen after the floodgates were open in the immediate aftermath of COVID. We have found $6.3 billion in suspected fraudulent government contracts, which were mostly awarded during the last administration, and that has stopped. And finally, we blocked $60 million in student aid fraud that should have gone to young people trying to get an education, but instead we're going to fraudsters. And I think the theme here of the anti-fraud task force up to this point has really been that we're protecting two classes of victims here. We're protecting the American taxpayers who shouldn't have their money stolen by fraudsters. And of course, we're protecting the people who need these services. Fraud is not a victimless crime. This is not somebody gets to make some money for violating the law, and otherwise it's not a big deal. This is people who rely on critical services, students who rely on student loan services, sick people who rely on hospice care, a number of small businesses who rely on the availability of these loans so that they can grow their business and hire people. All of these people, all of our fellow Americans have been taken advantage by fraudsters, and the task force is here to stop it.
And that's exactly what they are doing. They are freezing new hospice providers because so many of the newer hospice providers were not actually providing hospice services. They were just focused 100% on fraud. So this campaign is no longer about accounting. It's about the moral centerpiece of the Trump administration and their argument. Disabled veterans extorted for bribes, fake Medicaid claims, bogus hospice providers, and hundreds of billions stolen during COVID show a system that betrayed the American people. The task force has already referred $22 billion in bad loans back to the Treasury, deferred $1.3 billion in Medicaid fraud, and blocked $6.3 billion in fake contracts. Prison time for the guilty is the next step, and every recovered dollar belongs back to the American people. So the bottom line is quite clear. Republicans are fighting to end the looting while Democrats boycott the effort and shield the fraud. This is what winning looks like for everyday Americans who deserve a government that protects their money instead of stealing it. So share this report, comment below, and let us know what you think. Does the Democrat boycott prove that they're the party of fraud? And make sure you join the thousands of patriots before you who've already texted those two words, raw feed, to 844-840-4963. That's that number you see right there on the screen. They're already bypassing the algorithm, and they're getting direct updates from me right to their phone when it matters most. And if you haven't done so yet, check out the Next News merch shelf. Celebrate America 250 with us. The Trump administration is delivering accountability, and that means real victories for America.
The system controls information. Information control is power.
I want you to see this.
The truth only survives together. They don't want this shared. Share this now.